Sarah Imenu versus Hagar, her shifcha, her helpmate. We talked about this before, but now that this is the Parashah is talking about it more, we're going to go into it a little bit more. We know that Hagar, although she was a princess and she became, Paro told her to go and be in the house of Avraham Avinu. It's better to be in the house of Avraham Avinu as a maidservant than to be a princess in San Francisco, because you know where you're going to end up. So she went, she goes, but she still had all this genetics of San Francisco, of Paro, of Mitzrayim, of Egypt of that time. She had a lot of gaiva. She was very haughty. She was always looking for ways to become the best, to be better than Sarah Imenu. And once she got pregnant, Chazal tells us that she saw that she's being pregnant. So she said, after all these years that Sarah hasn't become pregnant, obviously I'm better, because the first year that I'm married to Aram, I'm pregnant. And we know what happened over there, that because of her haughtiness, she gets kicked out. And she doesn't just get kicked out of the house. She gets kicked out of the Jewish nation. As opposed to Bila and Zilpah, we're going to see in a few Parashot where they gave up their motherly right to name their children Dan and Naphtali, Asher, or Gad. They gave it up to the mistress, to Rachel and Leah. They said that we are secondary to you. Whatever you want to call them, even though we get birth. Because of that, those Shavatim are part of the Jewish people. When we came to Hagar, because she was so haughty, and she couldn't get the genetics of Mitzrayim or Paro, the bad habits that she was brought up to get out of her, that's why she's out of the Jewish people. And not only her, but her Per Adam's son Ishmael, with the genetics that she had, with the evil that she was brought up with Paro, with being always selfish and haughty, that's what came into Ishmael. All the psolet, all the garbage of Aram and Sarah, that there's, whenever you have an orange, you have a covering. That's the garbage. You have to take the covering off in order to get to the fruit. So all the garbage went into Ishmael. And that's why it's called the Pera Adam. And just like his mother, Hagar, wanted a child because she wanted the child just to be like anybody else. The Irish woman has a child. The Italian woman has a child. The Polish woman has a child. The Jewish woman also has a child. They all give milk to the child. They bring him up. They play with him. Gucci, whatever it is. They take him to the park. They get him to the, whatever it is. A child grows up. Every mother loves a child. But what are you making out of this child? A Hitler? Or Yitzchak Avinu? A Pera Adam? That's what Hagar. She taught her kid to become a terrorist. To stand by the Midbar decides to kill people, to rob people. Hashem is telling her that you're going to have a Hitler. She's dancing. She's dancing. The fact that she's going to have a Hitler is going to kill a lot of Jews and non-Jews, as that we see today. Every airport you go to, every supermarket you go to, you hear a guy Arabic talking. You always think about what's going to be happening. Why? Because of the genetics of a woman who couldn't bring down her haughtiness, of Sarah Imenu. Like Sarah Imenu, who taught Yitzchak to be a mensch, to be Yirat Shamayim. What did Sarah ask for kids for? In order to build Am Yisrael. Ishmael, Hagar asked for a kid in order to destroy Am Yisrael. And that's the difference between a mother who wants kids in order to go in the ways of the Torah, as opposed to a mother who brings kids just because she wants to have kids. She wants to be like everybody else. Motherly instincts. That's not where the Jewish mother stops. That's just the beginning. Motherly instincts is not enough. That you could just be an Italian. You could be just be a Hagar. You bringing kids into the world in order to teach them how to be a mensch, how to be a Jew, how to go with the Torah, if it's a girl, how to be tsunua. Not just to grow up to be a doctor and a professor, a gay professor coming out of a university of today, what they're teaching them today. No, that's not what Hashem wants. If you're bringing kids into the world, why are you bringing them? Ask Sarah Imenu. Why does she want such a kid? In order to bring him up. And by Avram Avinu also. You think Avram had a machloka with Sarah? It says when Sarah kicked out Ishmael. We always think that Abraham was very upset. It was bad in his eyes. But what does Rashi say? Rashi brings down that Abraham was very upset. Why? If Rashi didn't write this, we couldn't believe it. Because he saw that what kind of a beast Ishmael had become. All the hopes as a father that he had put into him. So that his mother overcame with the genetics that she had. And that's why Abraham was so upset that his son Ishmael had become a Pera Adam. He had gone off the derech. So he had also no problem kicking him out of the house. Not to influence the good. The good. The fruit. The psolet, the garbage was out of the house. You have to get the garbage out of the house in order for Yitzchak to go in the right direction. That's the difference between when it comes to chinuch of a person who goes with the Torah and a person who doesn't go with the Torah. Whether he's Jewish or not Jewish. Even non-Jews could teach their kids to go abide by the 7 Noachide lies, and that person could become a righteous non-Jew. There's no difference over here with Jew and non-Jew. But it depends where you're teaching him. Why are you bringing the kid to the world? To become a terrorist? Or to become a mensch, to become a righteous person that loves Hashem, that loves God and loves his people and loves everybody else and wants to do good. And we also see over here another point with the education of a Jewish kid. In the Haftarah it talks about there's 2 women. Last year we talked about the second woman, Isha Shunamit. This year we want to talk about the first woman. There's a few psukim, but it teaches us a lot. And this person's name, it doesn't say the name. It says, wife of one of the Nevi'im. Screamed to Elisha, who was the master prophet at that time. He had 100 Nevi'im that he was teaching. And the one who was responsible for these 100 Nevi'im, who were being persecuted, who were being run after, was Obadiah Navi. Obadiah Navi was super millionaire, but he used all his money, and he always went and collected from other people. A lot, and all the Jews knew about this, and they didn't say Lashon Hara. Although Achav at that time wanted to kill every single religious Jew who was going by the Torah, and his wife even worse, Izebel. They were chasing after Torah-abiding Jews in order to kill him. Unfortunately, a lot of things that we hear today, parasite, benchwarmer, whatever it is, they were after them they didn't know that these are the people who are saving the world. If it wasn't for these people who were learning in Torah, in the Beit Midrash, the soldiers would not be succeeding over there in the front lines. But if we said Achav and Izebel were after them, and Obadiah, who was actually a convert and become a Nevi, and he came from Esav was also Russia, but he worked on his genes, and he overcame his Yetzarim, and he became a good person. He also became a prophet, and he gave all his wealth in order to save all his 100 Nevi'im, and he passed away. But there's a big bill now because he took a lot of loans also to save these 100 Nevi'im. So the wife of Obadiah goes to Elisha and starts screaming and crying out, what's going to be? My husband saved 100 Nevi'im, which the Jewish people needs, that they're teaching Torah and is a continuation of the next generation. What's going to be? It's like, what's the problem? He's like, he took a lot of loans out, and if I don't pay the loans back to the king, he's going to come and take my 2 sons. Okay, so people like you and me maybe today, if you look at this superficially and say, wow, that's great. They're taking these 2 sons to be grown up in the palace of the king. They're going to be taught university math, science, and all this, whatever it is. They're going to become doctors. They're going to become professors. Why not? Why not? Let it be. Elisha should have told her, oh, you're the luckiest woman in the world. But she screams. It says in the pasuk she was screaming. These are my kids that we grew up. We taught them how to be a mensch. If they go to the university of this king, they're going to become lower than animals. This is what I brought Kazan into the world. She's screaming her head off. She doesn't care about the money. She doesn't care about this. But my 2 kids that I brought up with my husband, Obadiah, They're going to go to the garbage can. They're going to go to University of the Kingdom of, which was very bad at that time. She said she'd rather die. So obviously Elisha prayed for her and she became the richest person. And as Chazal say, or sages say, that this family is still rich till today. We don't know who it is. But he gave her bracha that they should be rich, but to use the richness with the Torah. And this family, whatever it is, whoever it is, they're still rich today and they're buying by the Torah. Why? Because of the screaming of a mother that did not want the kids to go to a San Francisco college and become a professor. And like we know today how important it is. Whatever places that a parent sends the kids. You know, we live in Israel. I hear a lot of kids that come over here with a lot of dedication. But sometimes they tell me stories that the parents are having such a hard time. You know, you're going to become a this, you're going to become a rabbi. They don't hear the screamings of the wife of Ovadia that she cried for this. The parents should be jumping out of joy and circling these kids when they come back and kiss them and say, go back for a second year. Go back for a third year. We don't want Ishmael Hitler. We want Yitzchak Avinu. We want a continuation of the Jewish nation. So B'ezrat Hashem. Let's learn from this that B'ezrat Hashem, that when we go to the army, we have to say everything B'Shem Hashem, Hashem Naseh Nasliach. We have to understand what Hashem wants out of us, not just prayers and tehillim, which is very good, but change our ways. Don't go back to the same old person you were after everything's calmed down. Number 3, keep your mouth shut in the time of arguments and machloket. And number 4, if you're bringing kids into the world, know why you're bringing them. Not to be another professor, reform professor, but in order to be a mensch, in order to be a righteous person that will give pleasure to Hashem and to you as the parents, and B'ezrat Hashem, He'll carry on to the genetics of the next generation. We should have the Shabbat Shalom and a final redemption. B'mhera Amen.